Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Teas. Get some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Teas at dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Hey guys, this is Earnest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $eJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill. To deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and follow us on Spotify or your other listening podcast platforms. Also, guys, I'm really excited with my release of the ebooks. Ebooks by ejames.com. That's ebooks by ejames.com. I have 3 ebooks that is available. I have the core 4, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should receive from her father. I have Forgiving Me, the 4 steps to self-forgiveness. And I also have From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring book for young boys. So I'm very excited about that. Make sure you guys check that out. Again, that is ebooks by ejames.com. Okay. And for my listeners, I'm going to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, right? And it don't cost you anything, but you got to stay until the end to find out that information. So stick around anyway, which I know you are, because you that's why you're here. We have great episodes and great guests. And just like today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest. Miss Katherine, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right. First of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could have been doing anything else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure they do too. And if not, they will by the time we finish talking.
Amen.
Okay, so Katherine, we're going to jump right into it. So do me a favor, introduce yourself to my listeners and tell them who you are and what it is that you do.
Great. So my name is Katherine Wintsch, and I am a 45-year-old woman. I live in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm an entrepreneur. I run a consulting company that I started called the Mom Complex, and we help big companies come up with ideas for better products and services for mothers. And I am also a mother of 2 teenagers, and I am the author of a book called Slay Like a Mother. that is helping men and women all around the world slay their dragon of self-doubt.
Right, right. Okay. So I came across your platform because of the book. I don't remember where I seen it at, but I seen it. I seen a Slave Like a Mother, and then I started reading, the comments and the presence behind the book, and I'm like, okay, I really like this, And then when I seen you say, "Slay the Dragon of South Dell," so that's why I named this episode is the Dragon Slayer. Okay, so because I really like that, and so that kind of piqued my interest. So I want you to tell us. So I know because you just told us who you are and what you do. So I'm always interested to know the backstory because there's always a story before we became who we are, especially those of us in the field of helping others. There's always a backstory from where that journey of who we were to get to the point to now that we are helping other people. So tell us a little bit about your journey of who you were and what you were going through that brought you to the point where you was like, okay, now that I've conquered this dragon, let me help out the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So for 20 years of my life, so from age 15 to 35, I lived with what I refer to as this dragon of self-doubt. And what I mean by that is that no matter what I achieved on the outside, no matter how many, titles, trophies, success, whatever, anything I was trying to attract in my life, no matter what I achieved, I never really felt good enough. I always felt quite broken and hollow and empty. And after many years of therapy and Oprah episodes and lots of red wine, I finally learned that I didn't have enough love inside of me for myself. And so I was requiring it from the outside world. I was using external circumstances to help fulfill my self esteem and make me feel better. And after doing that for 20 years, it just became kind of a dead end road, no matter, it wasn't working. I wasn't feeling better about myself. And that's when I started to get help, like I said, with therapy and self-help books. And I became a real student, of myself and tried to figure out why didn't I like myself? How could I learn to love myself? And once I finally healed myself after several years of a self-help journey, I really felt selfish keeping what I learned to myself, that I could have healed myself and then just gone back to my day job and moved on. But my life so dramatically changed, and I finally found peace and self confidence and self love. And I felt very called to help other people do the same. And that's what I'm doing now. And it's the great joy and blessing of my life.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad that you did because, like I said, I came across the book, and we're going to talk more about it a little later. But I just thought that just reading the parts that I could read, and listen to some of your videos because I always go back and watch the videos and the clips and things to make sure that the messaging that my guests are presenting is good messaging, and I've just loved it, and even the responses from some of the ladies who have grown from coming in contact with yourself in the book, and I think it was awesome. And one of the things that you talk about, which I think that a lot of us, again, like you said, your book is not just for mothers, although you speak to a lot of women. But one of the things that we've struggled with in our lives is trying to do so much, right? And not only just trying to do so much, but then trying to be great at everything. You know what I mean? And so I know one of your concepts that I heard you say, and I just thought that was amazing, was pick your battles. But don't just pick your battles, but pick the battles you want to lose. And I was like, oh, that's just like, to me, which is awesome. So tell us a little bit about that concept and what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so a lot of us derive our self-esteem, as I said earlier, from external circumstances. So who we're helping, who we're volunteering for, what we're seeing and what we're wearing, and all external kind of
Mhm.
trappings. And so I like to challenge people to say, okay, in this season of your life, not for the rest of your life, but the season that you're going through right now, what are 3 battles that you really want to win? And that could be, I want to lose 10 pounds, I want to get remarried, I want to get divorced, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But 3 things, because we have to start to prioritize, because otherwise
Mhm.
we create this list in our mind of 50 things that we have to do, and we have to do well, and we have to perform, and we have to be perfect. So I'm asking people to prioritize and say, okay, 3 battles that you want to win, and write them down, because that's really where your time and your attention and your focus should go to. But equally, if not more importantly, I ask people to write down, what are 3 battles that you're willing to lose right now? Because you can't win them all. And if you try, we're just going to die trying and fall over in this pile of exhaustion and defeat. So I'll give you an example from my own life. So I have 2 kids, and they happen to be in 2 different schools. I happen to have a very supportive husband and partner. So we divide and conquer, and I do more at my daughter's school, and my husband does more at my son's school. And so I've said, in this season of my life, I am willing to look like a bad mother at my son's school, because I don't know the teachers. I'm not there. I'm not volunteering, like I'm a stranger.
Right.
But I've said, I can't do it all. I can't, be at everything. So I'm willing to lose this. And lo and behold, when I do show up at my son's school, I feel like a loser, because I don't know the other parents. I don't know the teachers. I really don't know where his classroom is. And my whole insides kind of shrink, like, oh, I'm such a bad mother. But then I say, Catherine, you said you were willing to lose at this. And this is what feeling like a loser feels like. This is what it feels like. And it's okay. You said that this was okay. And I give myself some grace in that moment. And so our seasons of life, come and go. But I think it's important to write down the 3 battles that you're willing to lose. Maybe you're not going to be putting the perfect food on the table. Maybe you're not going to lose 10 pounds right now. And it's not that you're giving up on it. It's just that you just can't do it all.
Right. Right. And I love that concept because it kind of go in equality, should I say, for lack of a better term, of the space where I'm at. So in the self development space is where I'm kind of at, and pouring into myself and learning. And one of the things that is often talked about is, number one, what do you want, right? And so it's making that decision, like you said, pick what you want to win. What do you want to win? So what do you want? And the other thing is, on the other side of that, of what you want, is what are you willing to sacrifice? And so again, like mirroring to what you said, you got your battles that you want to win, but then choose your battles that you want to lose and be okay with that. And I think that premise is awesome, because in this space where I'm at, this year, my word was intentional. Right. And so I'm like, I'm going to be intentional about everything that I do or every decision that I make. I'm thinking it through, making sure that the outcome that I'm headed for is what I really want. And so being that means some decisions that I stray from, might be like, hey, that's not important right now, and again, you might lose in that sense, but as long as you're gaining what you really desire, you're really not losing. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because you can always
I
kind
love
of
that.
go back to whatever that thing was, And so I just think that I like I said, I heard that, and I just thought it was awesome. And one of the things that I know that leads us to a lot of problems that we have, which I've learned, is how we speak to ourselves. Because a lot of times, I know in this space where I am, and getting more into the self-development space, and I've seen it more often now, probably because I'm paying attention. Probably was there all the time, how that is. Things there all the time, but you don't pay attention to it, and be like, oh, so affirmations and things like that. So if you're talking about affirmations and speaking life over yourself and speaking the things that you want, and I realized just how much of negative thoughts you have in one day. You know
Mm.
what I mean? It's like if you're not conscious of it, but once you become conscious of it, like, even if it's just small stuff, it's like, oh, I look ugly in this dress, or, whatever it is, I look fat today or whatever. Just, it could be the smallest things, but those things add up. And again, like you're saying, it adds into how you see yourself, add into your self-worth and those things. So when we're talking to ourselves, how is it, or what can we do to better be able to communicate, just with our own selves, before anybody else, but just with our own selves, but being able to communicate, how we feel about ourselves and shutting off that negative talk in our own lives. Like, what are some of the things that we can do in order to bring that about?
So I think the first step is to realize you're actually doing it, because so many of us just walk through this life and we're yelling at ourselves, you're fat, you're ugly, you're this, it's a miracle anybody loves you. I mean, it's terrible what we say to ourselves, but most of us go through life and don't even realize we're doing it. So one of the exercises that my therapist had me do was just write it down on a piece of paper, write down the last terrible thing that you said to yourself. And she gave me that exercise 8 years ago. And at the time, I thought, okay, what is the last terrible thing I said to myself? And I took out a piece of paper and I wrote down the sentiment. And what it said was, you are a poor excuse for a strong woman. And that's the way that I felt about myself. And what we have to realize is, not only does that damage your psyche, when that weight is sitting on top of you, you're a poor excuse for a strong woman, but it changes your behavior. Because then if you feel like you suck or you're fat or you're ugly, you're going to overcompensate in other areas, right? So I thought I was a poor excuse for a strong woman. So that's when I started working 80 hours a week and always trying to get promotions. And so it doesn't just drive our beliefs about ourselves, it drives our behavior, in life. Or if you think you're overweight, not attractive, you're not going to try and start dating again if you've recently, gotten out of a marriage. And so what I like to tell people is that you're not going to get the mean voice to completely go away. So don't make that your goal. We all have a lot of negative thoughts, but you can teach it some manners. And I'll give you an example from my own life. So not too long ago, I was at Hotel Gym and I was riding an exercise bike. And when I was done with my workout, I was resting my hands kind of on the top of my backside. And I felt what felt like 2 handfuls of cellulite. And so the negative voice in my head immediately said, what must that look like? And I'm looking around like, can everybody see my cellulite? And so first of all, I heard it. And that's the first step. So I heard it, and then I taught it some manners. And I taught it some manners by saying, what this looks like is that I got my rear end out of bed and put it on a bike. That's what this looks like. And so even if those negative thoughts come up, you can correct them. You can teach them some manners, and you can have the final say.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. And one of the things I want to go back to, just what you were saying in the first place about writing it down, right? And so I think there's scripture that says, write the vision and make it plain, And so whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish, or that, use the vision that you see for yourself, writing it down has to be one of the most amazing and powerful things you can do, because once you write it down, you're getting it out of your head, first of all, and then you see it. And when you see it, you're seeing it. But when you see it, you also read it, which means you're hearing it, And so one of the things I did for the first time this year was back in February. I had a vision board party. Never done a vision board. Heard about them, never done it. Decided to do it, right? So I had some couple friends over, and we did this vision board party. And on this vision board, I probably had like 10 things, that I wanted to accomplish. And, I did it. I've hung it up on my wall, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And so just going on, months later, I just happened to stop and look at it. And out of the 10, I had already accomplished like 7 of them. And I'm like, I got to do another vision board, because now I got to get some more goals to hit, But it was just the fact that, there's so much power in just being able to see it and put up,
Yeah.
put it out there into the world to, what it is that you want. And so when it comes to, how we speak to ourselves, again, like you said, what does this really look like? Because yes, when that negative voice comes to say whatever it is that it wants to say that's contrary to how you feel and what you think about yourself, then you have to put it in check, and then by doing that, not only are you putting it in check, that negative voice, but then again, you're speaking it out into the world again about who you are. So it's not just about how you see yourself, but you're speaking out into the world how you want the world also to see you. Because just like you were in that gym, all the rest of them people was in the gym too. So they probably started thinking, hey, we all got up, because I probably still was asleep while you guys were there.
You're exactly right. I mean, speaking it into existence, writing it into existence. And there was something really powerful when I saw it in my own handwriting, because it became undeniable. I was like, oh my goodness, that is how I feel about myself. And I couldn't deny it anymore. And that's really what sparked my own self-help journey. Was I was like, why do I think that about myself? It was really painful. But I think if we're going to heal, and I love how you talk about, like, we have to deal with our problems if we're going to heal. And if we're going to heal, we have to admit the way we feel about ourselves. We have to admit what we really want in life and how we want to get there. And all too often it just, stays in our mind, and it's just not as actionable, if it stays there.
Yeah, and I think that, the more we get into the habit of not only speaking how we say, what we say to ourselves, but actually speaking into existence the things that we want in this life, it'd be amazing how much things change and the way things change. Even with the people that you interact with on a daily basis, when you'll be amazed at how your situations change, your relationships change, just by changing how you talk, just by changing your outlook and your perception of, positive thinking and positivity, that you're looking at everything that you do, everything that you say, the people that you even attract, and just on my own journey, even since I started a podcast, I've been attracting so many amazing people like yourself. Some people I reach out to, but then some people contact me like, hey, I like what you're doing, and it just, being able to connect with them. But it's all about what are you putting out into the world that you want to get back, because everything is like a boomerang. Everything that you put out is going to come back to you in some shape or form. It's just, how do you want it to come back? And so the more positive you're putting out, the more, thought and attention that you're putting into what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're sending out, then, when it comes back, it's going to be what you want to receive, and I really think that, sometimes it's our own expectations of some of the things that we want, or some of the things that we say we want. Not even necessarily what we want, but what we say we want, because that's a whole another conversation that we can get into, which is our thoughts of what we want or what we really want. Because what you really want, you'll put the action behind. So often you're like, oh man, I wanna lose weight, and then it's like, okay, what are you doing about it? Oh, nothing. I just want it. You know what I mean? It's like, so that's not really what you want, because what you want has actions behind it to kind of bring it to fruition. But I think sometimes we have goals or expectations that sometimes is just unrealistic, should I say, and so trying to find that balance, like, okay, what do I really want? What am I willing to sacrifice in order to get what I want? And then, is what I'm saying I want really attainable, or at least attainable for the person that I am now?
Yeah.
Because if it's not attainable for the person that I am now, then who do I have to become in order to obtain it? What
Okay.
I mean?
So on that note, I have your next vision board assignment.
Okay. Write it down.
So a lot of times for vision boards, we're projecting onto the future of what we want. So, and a lot of times what fills up vision boards is external things. So I want a certain job or relationship or house or so that can be one challenge. It can be kind of externally focused, but also a lot of times when you look at vision boards, when you're done, they're filled with things that you lack. It's things that you don't have. And somebody said to me recently, they said, we should build, I don't know what we call it. We could come up with something together, but maybe it's not a vision board, but it's the board of what you already are, what you already have. And what if you stared at that every day that said, okay, I'm a really good man. I have healed myself. I'm healing other people. I'm giving back to my community. And somebody said, wouldn't it be neat to look at that every day and remind ourselves what we already are? And it goes back to your point about expectations, that a lot of times vision boards are external and they're a sense of lack of what you haven't gotten yet. And maybe sometimes looking at that for some people is going to make them feel like they haven't gotten there and they're still lacking, versus like, we don't take the time to compliment ourselves. We don't take the time to think like, okay, what have I done well? What's great about me? And that could just be an interesting exercise to also stare at, that even if you never accomplish anything else external, like, what have you done already? And who are you as a human being that you can be proud of, is just an interesting, exercise.
I'm loving it. And my mind is like going right now. I'm like, okay, visionary, the visionary that you are now, that you're creating the vision. I'm like, okay. So my mind is like going. I'm definitely going to be thinking about that. Like, what can we do? And I think that's amazing, and I think also that's really is something that we don't do often enough. And I can say that even with myself. And that's part of why I was surprised when I looked at the vision board and realized how much I had accomplished, because I never take the time to look at it. I never take the time to look at, okay, what have you done? And I do have some accomplishments in my life that I've been blessed to accomplish. I started a business. I helped start a church. I started a nonprofit organization, and just a lot of things that I know I've done. But in the press for what you haven't done, in the press of what you want to become and what you want to achieve, you don't take the time to really appreciate what you've already achieved. And
who you are, like who you are as a human being, that it's like, what do those accomplishments add up to? Like, from what you're describing, it just seems like you're a giver, you're a helper, you're a healer. And so even outside of the individual accomplishments, it's like, we're not here just to accomplish and achieve and check boxes to feel good about ourselves. It's like, who are you at your core, that if the wind blew and all those accomplishments went away and there were different ones, but at the core, you're a good human being. And wouldn't it be great to see that every day and remind yourself, because we're always going to have failures and we're always going to have setbacks and we're always going to fall short of, things that we want. But if we could have a regular reminder, would just be the best, I think.
Yeah, and I think we have to take the time to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have like our moments of self-doubt and feeling like we're not enough and things like that, because we don't really look at what we have accomplished and what we have overcame, because like you said, there's always going to be another thing. It's always going to be another goal to do. It's always going to be another thing you want to accomplish. It's always going to be a version of yourself that you're always striving to become. But at one time, you weren't the version that you are now. Right. And so I think we have to make it more on a more active. I don't know what the word I'm trying to say, but just more on a more more often, should I say, to sit
Yeah.
down and count up, what have I done? Who have I became?
Right.
What have I accomplished thus far? Not looking at what I don't have or what I didn't accomplish or what I'm trying to get to, but who am I today that I can say today I'm a different person than I was, last week or last year or whatever, and appreciate the version of myself that I have become.
Right. And I think that's the problem with expectations is we set them too high. It's like,
Mm,
I expect that I'm going to heal everybody. I'm going to help everybody. I'm going to be the perfect brother, sister, mother, daughter, friend, like
yeah,
whatever. And then that again is a sense of striving, which people tell us is good. Like it's good to have high expectations, but there's a difference between expectations that are high and expectations that are too high. And when you set them and they're too high, then you fall short and then you yell at yourself and you tell yourself you're a loser versus, and again, all of that is a very externally focused way to look at the world as opposed to what's the internal lens? Who am I? You know, as a person, and even if I never achieve anything else, what have I already become? As a human walking this earth, and life is so busy, so we're not getting this feedback from other people. We're just running and gunning and doing, um, and and I am living proof that you can't really get it from other people and have it work. So there were people, in my life, throughout my life, that loved me very much, that were very proud of me, but I couldn't receive it because I didn't love myself and I wasn't proud of myself. And so, we just have to be careful about, siphoning our love from the external world.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I think will be a good practice, even when it comes to setting our expectations or setting our goals, is that we actually break down the steps to get to that goal. So even if we don't make it to the goal, how many steps did we at least take? You know what I mean? So if it's 10 steps to get to this goal and I don't quite make it to the goal, but I might have got 7 steps. You know what I mean? I might have accomplished 7 steps, which within itself is still a win. It's still a goal. And so I think when we kind of break it down and begin to celebrate ourselves, for the accomplishments that we have, celebrate ourselves for the person that we have become, in the moment. Although again, yes, we have these goals and visions of who we want to become and all that stuff, but just celebrating who we are now,
Yeah.
in the midst of it, in the midst of the journey, because that's what it is. It's a journey that we'll never get to. It's like a journey that never ends. It's like you're on a trip, but you never actually quite make it.
Right.
You might get close, but you never actually quite make it. So you have to enjoy the journey that you're going on. I think once we begin to really acknowledge that and acknowledge the steps that we've taken and the person that we've become, not only do we help ourselves, but we also are able to help others, like you have, been able to do, with your book. And because you do conferences also, right? Like
Yeah.
conferences, things. Okay, yeah. So since I mentioned it, let's talk a little bit about the book. First of all, how was that process? Because I've read 3 ebooks, which weren't too bad. But before I started the ebooks, I started an actual hardcover book, and I still haven't finished it.
Yeah.
So I've read 3 books in the process of trying to write this one book. So how was your process even coming to the concept of writing Slay Like a Mother? And then, let's talk to us a little bit more about the things that's in the book that you want the listeners to get out of it.
Well, first of all, don't forget to stop and pause and just say you wrote 3 ebooks. Like that is an extraordinary accomplishment and more than most people. And so, just don't forget to, celebrate the victories. Just like we were talking about, it's not necessarily about what's to come, but for me, it was a really long journey, and it's a very personal book that I, share a lot of my own struggles and self-doubt and, growing up and being a teenager and being so insecure at one point that I tried to take my own life because I just couldn't, deal with the pain and the suffering and the struggling. And so it was a very emotional, it was a long journey to write it. And it was a lot of this stuff I had never really said out loud. And then I was writing it, and it was very therapeutic. I cried all the time. And I was scared about how it would be received, by my parents, my husband, my children, people that would be very surprised by, what I was saying. But it was also very therapeutic of like, I'm not going to hide behind this mask anymore, and I'm going to speak my truth, and I'm getting it out in a big way so that I can heal and move on and, help other people. But it was over the course of 4 years. And then, I'm still like, as as an author, it's really up to you. Even when it comes out, it's like, well, you got to promote it. You got to talk about it. You got to, I kept thinking, when's the team that's going to show up? Like, I wrote the book. Isn't somebody else going to show up and help me tell the world about the book? And another author told me at one time, she said, you're going to spend as much time, if not more, promoting the book than you did writing it. And I was like, there's no way that's the case. And of course that's the case. But luckily I believe in it so much, I'll never, stop talking about it. But the book is all about slaying this dragon of self-doubt, and it's very self-help. And it, the crux of the book is 7 ways that you're feeding this dragon and how to stop. So you're yelling at yourself all day, every day. You can't say no. You're setting expectations that are unrealistic. And they're real exercises and not assignments, but like tips that you can, put into practice in your life. And they changed my life. And so I know they work. And it's really neat to be able to, share it. And I've traveled all over the world. I've been to India talking about it. I just got back from Nigeria and Africa. And I keep hoping that I'm going to show up somewhere and people are going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't apply to me. But it hasn't happened yet. And even in Nigeria, there were so many men that were like, this book is not just for women. This has really helped me. And it's really for anybody that struggles with believing that they're not good enough.
Yeah. Right. Wow. And so man, just by listening, to you talk about it and listening to the principles, just the ones that you shared here and the conversation that we've had, I know that the book is awesome. I'm definitely going to get my copy. And I think that, even the conversation that we're having, because it's even making me think more while we're talking, and which is one of the reasons why I love this podcast, even like if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard you mention about, not wanting to be here, or having thoughts of not wanting to be here. Yeah. And so I oftentimes talk about even my thoughts of not wanting to be here at one time because of depression that I was going through at that time, and contemplating suicide and everything that looks like. And so I love to have people on here who has been through a journey, who does have a story and has came out on the other side of it, because there have been people that didn't make it to the other side, and so, but I really like, while I would love to have some famous quote unquote people on, or love to have someone probably that's more well-known as guests, but I take pride in having people that's everyday people, because that's who we all are. We're just everyday people who's dealing with some of the same struggles, the same problems, and we need the same help and the same healing. And so, if I did have a cruise name brand, whoever influencer or, star on, I think people would probably be so mesmerized of the star factor that they would miss the story. So I'd rather just have everyday people like yourself and I to say, hey, we're just people. And I love introducing myself, like when I am a guest and I'm on the other side of the podcast. One of the things I always introduce as myself is I'm just a person who loves people.
Mm.
and a person who loves to help people. And so that was my whole premise behind the podcast. I'm like, I've been through my struggles and my things, and I speak my truth so to help who I can. But I haven't been through everything, and neither do I want to go through everything. So if I can find someone who has dealt with a certain thing or dealt with a certain issue and have overcame it, then I know that there's others that's dealing with the same thing, and I'm able to have them on, like yourself. And so I definitely appreciate you being on. I appreciate the work that you do and the people that you help. And again, just by us having this conversation, you've already put some things on my mind that I'm thinking about now, especially with the vision board thing. That's right here. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm working on that tonight.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I do have to add, like hearing your story too, and I'm a researcher by trade and I study self-doubt, and I've done some additional work about studying self-doubt in the Black community. And what I have heard in my research is there's almost like an extra burden of silence in the Black community, that men and women tell me that in that community, you're expected to be strong, you're expected to be tough, and that coming out and saying, I'm struggling, I'm dealing, I don't want to be here, I want to go to therapy, is that much harder. And there's just an extra burden of staying silent because you're supposed to be, a pillar of strength. And that really affected me in the sense that I felt comfortable, speaking about my truth. And it really kind of set me back to learn that, in some communities, it's just an extra burden of staying silent. And so I love what you're doing, and I hope it helps everybody, but particularly, Black men and women and boys and girls to feel comfortable talking about this.
Yeah, and you're 100% correct, because that is a burden that we have, and that's why even in this season, I'm trying and try to have more men on, talking about mental health, and things like that, especially Black men, because
Yep.
that is one of the things that we don't hold, we hold in and don't necessarily talk about. But just as a community, there's a lot of things that we don't talk about, and even speaking of my own journey, when I was going through my whole thing with depression, one of the reasons why, because my mom passed away. And so when my mom passed away, I started going to bereavement, and when I started going through the bereavement, it really helped me. And in the midst of me being there, it helped me when I was coming there for myself. And I liked it so much, I stayed and became a volunteer. And I probably was a volunteer a little over a year. And out of that year that I was there was only one Black family that came through there. Wow. And I said, it's not because we're not having loved ones pass away. It's not because we're not feeling the emotions of it, but it's because of this facade that we put up for each other that's not true. That's like, oh no, we can't show weakness. We can't say we're hurting, and the whole thing. And so that's actually when I started my nonprofit, that's what I did. I started my nonprofit doing bereavement work, and aiming in our communities, because it's like, look, I know you're hurting, because I was hurting. You know what I mean? And so just getting us to be able to speak and open up about it. And so that's why I'm really pressing to get more men out. I have had some on, but even getting more men on and going into these different spaces where men are joining together and being able to have these conversations, because we oftentimes don't have it, as men in general, but then also as Black men, it's like, no, we try to be tough and we try to be strong. We try to, put forth this facade that, we can make it through anything, but in the inside we're hurting. We're hurting with our marriages, we're hurting in our families, we're hurting with disappointments from our past, and we're not speaking up about it. And so if I'm your friend and you can't talk to me about it, or because I haven't said anything about it, so you don't want to say anything about it, so we all just hold it in. Yeah. And so in one of my conversations I've had, with other gentlemen, is we have to be the one to initiate the conversation so that the other person knows it's okay.
Yeah.
I speak about it all the time, the things that I've dealt with, my own battle with, suicidal thoughts and depression and all of that. I'm openly speaking about it, because I want those who I'm speaking to know it's safe for us to have these conversations, and we don't have to put up these facades that, are hurting us more so than helping us, So again, Katherine, thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much for your expertise and for the work that you do. I appreciate it. So I'm pretty sure that everyone else appreciates it also. I'm going to let you have the last word. I want you to have the last word. Just think of something, an idea, words of inspiration, whatever that you want to leave us with. And also your social media handles and where we can find the book and things like, all those things. And so while you think about that, I'm going to talk real quick to my listeners. Thank you guys, first of all, for joining in. But I told you I was going to tell you how you could win $100 from the podcast. And how you do that is by joining our super subscriber contest. What do you have to do? You must subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and to our Spotify podcast platform. And after you've done all three, text the word WIN, W-I-N, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. That's all you have to do. Just subscribe, right? It's qualified to win $100. The contest is ongoing and it's random, which means once you're in, you're always in, and you can win at any time. So again, that's how you can win $100. Join our super subscriber contest. You must subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our Spotify podcast. And after you've done that, text the word WIN, W-I-N, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. It's that easy. So, Katherine, once again, thank you so very much for being on. Thank you for being a guest. I really appreciate you taking out the time to be here with me and my listeners. And so I will let you have the last word. The floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. I would say for anybody listening, you can follow along on Instagram at slaylikeamother, which is the name of the book, or my handle is the letter K and then my last name Wintsch, W-I-N-T-S-C-H. And my book is available on Amazon. It's also available on Audible if you prefer an audio version, and it's my voice doing the reading. So I can read to you all about how to slay your dragon of self-doubt. And for my parting words of wisdom, I would just simply say, don't wait so long to love yourself.
I like that. We can't say it any better than that. Again, thank you, Katherine, for being on. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And we're on a mission to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next week, we will see you guys. Be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.